the entire world of fine dining changed when Carbone opened, because suddenly everyone started saying experiential fine dining, right? And we invented experiential fine dining as far as I'm concerned.
Welcome to the Culture Lounge podcast from CUISINE, a curated sonic experience that brings together artists, visionaries, and tastemakers in conversation from around the world. I'm your curator, Alex Assouline. Today, we're getting a taste of cuisine and hospitality with Mario Carbone and Jeff Zalaznick. Mario Carbone is a native New Yorker who has dedicated much of his life to the culinary arts. Mario has earned multiple James Beard Award nominations and founded multiple Michelin-starred restaurants. Jeff Zalaznick is a restaurateur and entrepreneur. Before focusing on his love of cuisine, Jeff was an investment banker for JP Morgan and a manager at the Mandara Oriental. In 2010, Jeff and Mario joined forces with Rich Torrisi to form Major Food Group, a global powerhouse with acclaimed restaurants, exclusive private venues, and fine hotels around the world. I can't wait to hear what Mario and Jeff have to say. So, let's enter the Culture Lounge.
Morning, Jeff.
What's up, Mario
How you doing?
Carbone? What's going on?
I heard you went to Crane Club last night.
I had a night last night. I tried Masara, and then I went and saw Crane Club, which is obviously an important part of our...
It's significant space in our lives.
I mean, in our lives, we wouldn't potentially even be here if it wasn't for that space.
Take you back?
It took me back to when, we would see each other there.
2006, 2007.
Yeah.
And then cut to 2010, the beginning of 2010, Rich and I opened Torrisi, 450 square foot restaurant on Mulberry Street. And you were one of the first customers to kind of come in, be super enthusiastic, which, for us at the time, it was so new to have somebody come in and get it immediately, be so enthusiastic about what we're doing. It was a real wind in our sails because early on it wasn't so understood what we were trying to get across. So when we met you, it was kind of like, oh man, this guy's kindred spirits. He's one of us. I was like, Rich, I've known this guy since Del Posto, blah, blah, blah. But then you come in early on at Torrisi and you're like, yo, how about instead of 2, we're 3, and we just do this. And I was kind of vouching for you to Rich from our early days at the space, and we kind of took a chance on each other, and that was the real beginning of what would eventually become Major Food Group.
At that time, I realized my destiny was to be a restaurateur. And that's what I wanted to do. And I wanted to do it with partners who were incredible chefs. And when you guys opened Torrisi, I was like, holy shit, these are the guys I want to work with. This is the best food I've had. I could do something with these guys. This could be the thing. Like, this is because what was in my head was my version. Obviously, we then collaborated to make Carbone of what Carbone was let's do this food the best way possible. We love it already. It's our favorite thing to do, and it's not even that good, the way that they make it. Like, it's not using the best products, not using the best ingredients, it's not being cooked with the best methods. That was my thesis. It wasn't that crazy.
And basically the way that we accomplished that food-wise was we ate at every old school Italian-American place in all the boroughs. You and I went to every single one of them.
100%.
We fully downloaded what was going on at all of them, all the little quirks, the little moves that each one did that made them unique. And that became taking all the little details of all the places, which we found like a level of homage to that, like that we know, that you and I know that there's a little bit of all those places in Carbone, and a style of service that I think we grew up loving. And then food-wise, kind of taking the techniques, the great techniques of sort of current 3- and 4-star restaurants and applying them to this genre that had been not really looked at in a fresh way in a really, really long time, but still beloved, even at its mediocrity.
100%. It had been just left to kind of live or die the way it was, because people were still paying at places like Scalinatella or Il Molino or Rayo's. They were still paying the highest prices for these dishes, including us. That was our big night out. We would still choose to go there, even though the veal is overcooked, even though the
You
lobster's
loved being
overcooked.
there and you liked the food.
Right, exactly. And it was always what you and me said. Like, everyone already loves this food.
What would happen if
we made it well.
the food was really good? Then what happens?
You know, it's always the simplest ideas that make the best products. You know, it's like people always ask me, they're like, you know, Carbone Miami's obviously been a huge success, right? Like, they're like, well, how did you choose that location? I'm like, it's directly in between Joe's Stone Crab and Prime 112 to the foot. The two highest grossing restaurants in Miami. This is not a genius. Like, they're like genius. I'm like, it's not genius. It seems basic to me, but like, it's those ideas that end up working out the best.
So the space, 181 Thompson Street, that Carbone inhabits, not only was an Italian-American restaurant from the 20s, but it was also significant because it was Mario Batali's first head chef job in New York. So he had that experience there. I opened Lupa across the street at 172 Thompson. So like these blocks, these streets, they could speak to us. So we take this great old space that has these like somewhat decrepit old bones, the beginnings of what would really define our style of building these restaurants, right? The way that we went about nurturing, researching all of the little details that would go into what makes Carbone Carbone, all these little tactical things that a customer interfaces with from the moment they walk up and see the old neon sign to the doorman to the giant menu. I mean, there's just thousands of decisions that go into building them. And I think it's, you know, we were able to pour ourselves into it because we had so much juice, we would say, or we had so much juice for this topic. We had loved it our whole lives. We had just visited everyone there was in New York. We had taken this great old space. Our mentors were behind us, and we just poured ourselves into every detail that went into that restaurant. You know, I remember so many of them that you were just like, it has to be like this, you know, because it was almost as if we made certain decisions differently, it would be illegal to the Italian-American restaurant, right? Like, the menu has to be this big. We have to serve chicken scarpello, right? Like, I mean, like, some of them we would fight about. Caesar salad. I didn't want to serve Caesar salad.
He made me make it.
I refused to serve Caesar salad.
You made me make it.
I was like, if you want Caesar salad, then you make it.
I made it. I made
that's
a
why
fucking great
today it's
Caesar
called
salad.
Caesar Al-Azizi because it's yours.
Yes. Get me a chef coat, and I'm gonna go make a fucking Caesar salad.
You did.
And it's a great one.
It's the greatest one.
You know, we've riffed off it a couple times. It is a great one.
But so many details.
One of my great culinary feats.
Just the style of service, you know, that you kind of crafted out of all the places that we visited, and then you sort of coached all the captains. We would call it Captain Camp, and you would host Captain Camp, and it would be all these servers. You know, we were looking for old school professional waiters, people that had made a living doing this, that had worked in maybe old steakhouses, but then you would host these captain camps.
In your apartment.
First at my apartment, our office, and then eventually at the restaurants, where you would sort of create this loose script that they would eventually make their own of how we wait on a table. I look at the book that's sitting in front of us now that we're about to launch, and I look at it and I get really emotional, because the first page of the book is that script. It's so the very beginning of it all is the very beginning of this book, and I can hear the different captains saying that to a table because I've heard it so many times in my life. So when I read it on the page, I get really emotional because it takes me right back to that moment of the very beginning. So I love that it's the first page of this book.
100%.
It's really beautiful.
100%. I mean, I remember I would have those guys come, like, it was like a layup line. Like, they would come, they would say that script to me. I'd be like, change that. Yeah. Change that. Change that. Now you go. Yeah. Now you go. They would go one after the other. One after the other. We would do it for hours until and then I'd be like, now give it your own spin. We wanted it to be true to what we were doing, which could only be done with people that were not part of the, like, fine dining.
Because we were swimming upstream. That was all the momentum in that period in New York was ultra fine dining.
Correct. Everyone was doing tasting menu fine dining. We knew we could not hire a single person from that world. No. We wanted old school steakhouse. This is what I do with my life, guys that were proud of it and that loved it and loved the craft. They get into it. They get competitive. They want to do it better than each other. And it creates this culture that becomes what is our captain culture of, like, who can rock these tables better? You know what I mean? And who can say things the way we say them? Who can make the table just want to give themselves to this person and say, tell me exactly what I'm doing. And that's why we call them captains, because they lead the ship.
They would never be allowed to tell a table, let me check with the chef.
Right.
Like, that's illegal.
Illegal. Foul.
You know the answer.
Flag.
You should deliver the answer right here.
Flag.
You don't check with the chef.
There's no checking with the chef.
You're running this ship. You're the captain of this ship.
That's why we always just say, even if it's not even true, just say it. Like, just
which early on got us in trouble with guys like Marco, who would place orders for things we didn't serve.
But it was better than him saying like, "Oh, let me go check with the chef."
I would get a ticket from Marco, and it'd be like, "Order 5 risotto primavera." And I'd be like, "Marco,
Primavera was funny.
we obviously don't
We
serve.
don't serve that.
risotto
We don't even
primavera."
have
He
risotto.
goes, "What kind of Italian restaurant is this?" You would look at me.
Well, at the time, not funny at all, but in retrospect, very funny.
And now I think 10, 11 years later, I think we went a long way towards affecting and moving the direction of that momentum, which was so heavy tasting menu, so heavy the chef is in control, the chef is always right. You know, you got to just eat it the way we do it. You know, I used to hate when they would drop a plate in front of you and they tell you to eat it from the left to the right. Like, we would never, right? Like, the customer's in control. It's the customer. This is a yes house. And I would train the chefs, like, we're going to say yes to as many things as we possibly can.
It says it on the top of the menu. That was our whole thing. It's like, if we're good at this, we should be able to make it for you. Like, I mean, you want a piece of grilled chicken? Okay.
Sure.
Like, we can grill you a piece of chicken. Like, when Carbone opened, we took a big bet because all anyone cared about at that time was fancy tasting menu restaurants. Yeah. And we took a big shot that was like, you know what? This is wrong. You only get to, I'm going to only make the same thing every night. The chef makes no changes. We can't accommodate anything. That's the opposite of hospitality. That's the opposite of what a restaurant means. The answer should always be yes, unless it's really not possible. And I think we did it in service, and I think we did it in food. And to your point, I think if you look, the entire world of fine dining changed when Carbone opened, because suddenly everyone started saying experiential fine dining, right? And we invented experiential fine dining as far as I'm concerned, right? That meant that it's not this fancy ass shit. Every detail's been paid attention to, from the art to the music to the service, the way they talk to you, to the best food being the main pillar at the same time. But it's an experience. It's a night out. Carbone is your night out. Carbone is the show. It's not the dinner before the show. And it created this entire category, and it also made, I think, a lot of people now have come up, and we see how many people, emulate our style, which is a great, compliment, that you can do the best food and you can have the best restaurants, and you don't need to do it like that. It doesn't have to be so tight, because people want to have a good time, and a good time can be made beautiful, and it can be made, elegantly, and it can be made in a way that's not that people, I don't think, realize was possible until we opened Carbone. And then everyone started to realize this is possible to have a fine dining restaurant that is fun, that's engaging, that has other elements, that's not this like crazy chef, we don't make anything else environment. You know what I mean? You and I consciously wrote a piacere on top of the menu, which means whatever you want. You know what I mean? That's a huge thing to write on the top of the menu, because that was like us saying, like, we are going directly against what is right now in trend, because everything that was in trend was not whatever you want. It's what I want, and if you don't like it, that's your problem. And we all felt so deeply connected to this idea of that was the opposite of great hospitality.
Which is one of the things we always say is if we don't want to hang out there,
we're not going.
We shouldn't build that.
We don't build it.
We only build things that we want to be in, we want to hang out in, we want to have fun in, and we get our customers come see us 2, 3, 4 times a week. That's a healthy, successful business. Your father-in-law, I want to see him in that restaurant 3 times a week. That's a successful restaurant.
100%. I mean, I tell everyone that works for us, it doesn't matter if someone comes. It matters if they come back.
Yeah.
That's the restaurant business. That's what people don't realize. Everyone's gonna come to an opening of a new restaurant.
You always say something about making the reservation on the way out.
Right.
What's
yeah.
that line?
The only goal is that they make a reservation on the way out. You know what I mean? Like that's success.
That's holy grail.
That right, exactly. Like if we succeeded, they make a reservation or they try to on the way out because they want to come back. Because coming back is our business.
The other really unorthodox thing that happened at Carbone is that we were able to retain the entire staff. Like the team that's there now is the team that's been there since the beginning.
It's unbelievable.
And which is unheard of, and I think goes a long way to our customers going and having that sort of cheers moment where they walk in and everyone knows their name, and it's something so much more than dinner, right? It's this place of familiarity, and in the book we sort of gave everyone a moment to be in here, and I think we did a great job. I'm really proud of getting everyone that was part of the team in the book have their moment, because certainly without that huge team of people, it's a shell of what it could be. So that's the other really amazing thing that's happened in the little ecosystem that is Carbone.
These guys are family. They've been with us for over a decade.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys also they took chances on us. We were kids, man.
Some of their kids work there now.
Yeah, we have like a whole family, mother, father, and daughter working there. The thing is also that these guys took a chance. Like, we were kids, and these guys were all made men, like that they had real experience, and they took a big chance on us. I mean, like, I remember sitting down with Sal, who was the head waiter at Sparks,
Making good money.
making as good money as you can make in this business.
Yeah.
Making the money consistently for 18 years.
Feeding his family.
Him telling me about his life, him telling me about his kids, and me sitting there and talking to him, explaining to him what we're going to do. And, when I look back, I get a little emotional also about it. It's like, I promised this guy that if he rolled with us, he's going to make more money than he makes at Sparks Steakhouse. And he did it. And he, to this day, has tears in his eyes every time he sees it and hugs
It
me.
reminds me of one of my favorite Rich quotes. Back in the day, he would say, "What I lack in experience, I make up for in confidence."
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
It's a perfect Rich quote, and it's a perfect Carbone quote.
Yeah, exactly.
I got a question for you.
Tell me.
You got one last meal at Carbone. It's 100 years from now, and you're walking in, and this is it. This is the last one.
You know where I'm going.
What do you order?
I would have an angel hair AOP, which is, for those who don't know, an angel hair with garlic, oil, and pepperoncino, AOP. I, have a big passion for a dish that comes on and off the menu called Posalipo pan roast that Mara and I kind of invented together, which is this amazing dish of kind of taking the old school Posalipo and adding oysters and sausage and all these. It's a delicious dish. And I have them pour it on top and then toss it with the angel hair because, of course, honestly, my last meal there, I'd probably have a Caesar, I'd have burrata with caviar, then I'd have my Posalipo pan roast AOP, and then I'd have a bronzino. That's actually what I have. That's actually my favorite thing to eat there.
Yeah.
We make the best bronzino in the world.
I agree.
What would be yours?
My last meal at Carbone, I would do something with the homemade mozz, because that feels really, that bite of the fresh mozz with the scissors at the table is a bite that takes me all the way back to original Torrisi. So let's do a prosciutto with fresh mozzarella on the table. We got the bread basket, so I'm definitely going to get into some grandma bread. I'll take one bite of garlic bread.
Well, that's a given. Yes.
I would have the spicy rigatoni if it's going to be the end.
It's funny. I was thinking about that. You kind of almost have to.
It's ornamental.
Out of respect.
I might have it on the table. Ornamental.
Ornamentally, it should be up there.
Yeah. I like to do AOP bolognese as my a piacere every now and again.
I didn't know you were doing that.
I do that. Yeah.
Really?
I do that.
With the tortellini ragu?
Yeah.
It's a nice move.
Yeah. No ricotta.
No, of course.
Yeah. I would definitely get into some main course. I love the pork chop peppers.
Pork chop and peppers is the best.
As long as they don't make the peppers aren't too hot.
Yeah.
Pork chop and peppers, and then I've got a vicious sweet tooth, as you know, and I'm going big on dessert. You know, definitely getting into some carrot cake.
I was gonna say you definitely going carrot.
Definitely getting into some carrot cake.
No questions.
No question about it. Then we're gonna get into. I mean, I'm not going anywhere. It's my last one, so we're gonna go coffee. We're gonna go cookies. Then we're going fruit and nuts. We're
You're gonna be eating fruit and nuts until the sun comes up.
Bottle of Montenegro on the table. It's gonna be one of those nights because it's the last one.
We might even drink some limoncello.
Yeah, invite our friends over.
Yeah, like we did when we opened. Those are hard mornings after a bottle of limoncello.
Yeah. Now that we're talking about last meals, maybe we bookend that with something a little happier because last meals is depressing. Let's talk about sort of those first meals, whether it was one or a place or something at home that like really sparked, oh, I like this. Like, I may like this more than others.
Yeah,
this is
something I'm into.
What was that for you?
For me, it's very simple. The first like fancy restaurant that I remember going to, and the first dish was the seafood sausage at Chanterelle.
Ooh.
That meal,
How old are you at Chanterelle eating
like
seafood
8.
sausage?
It was like my mom's birthday dinner or something like that. And that single dish, and you know how crazy I am about that sauce.
Yeah.
That dish, I was like, this is all I want to fuck with is food, like food. I'm so focused on food. And then I would say in 94, what really took me over the limit was Nobu opening for the first time. And seeing a whole new style, like, you know, not this fancy French style, but seeing Japanese food being brought really to America for the first time. It was like, oh my God, these are flavors I never even tasted before. Like those two experiences for me are what definitely changed my life to put me on the path that I'm going to dedicate my entire life to food and hospitality.
Yeah, I think similarly.
What about for you?
Yeah, similarly, you get these like different moments at stages of your life, each one kind of representing something else. Like for me, as a baby, with my grandparents who were from Italy, you know, spending time in their kitchen, having these really decadent meals that were, you know, just so incredible. I would look forward to the holidays at my grandparents' house so much because I knew my grandfather was going to go huge. He was an incredible cook, not professional, but just the highest level enthusiast. He knew his food so well. His actual job was he was a mechanic that fixed industrial baking equipment in New York. So he would go from all the big bakeries and restaurants and he would fix the like Hobarts and things like that. And that was his actual job. So he was in these kitchens, which he was kind of disgusted by and wouldn't allow like my mom and us to go out to restaurants unless he knew the owners because he didn't think that they were well kept. And so we did everything at home. So I remember those big early holidays that he would cook vividly. And then cut to going out, getting older and going out to restaurants and the theater of restaurants and falling in love with the business, not just food. You know, for me, it was a restaurant called Parkside, which is still in Queens. That was our occasion restaurant. That was where we went to celebrate everything. And I would be just as excited to do that. When my father would say, hey, we're going to Parkside on Friday night for your sister's birthday, I would be like ecstatic. I'd look forward to it all week and think about what I would order and the place. And I would go in and just be in awe of the energy in a busy restaurant and just be addicted to it early on. And then kind of your first fine dining restaurant. You know, Rich and I, when we were students at CIA at 18, we went out to River Cafe under the Brooklyn Bridge, and we had like kind of our first fine dining experience together where we had to wear jackets and ties. And it was, you know, really amazing that he and I did that together. After all these years, we both remember that meal so vividly. So you have these moments along the way where you have to, you know, you fall in love with food, and then you got to fall in love with the business because they're really different. You know, you can be a great avid home cook, but like, you know, the industry is not for you. And I know that I'm sure a lot of kids. I mean, one, you go to Cornell a lot and you kind of nurture the next generation and talk to a lot of kids there. But I'm sure that like a lot of parents and young kids that are looking to get into the business reach out to you for advice. How do you give advice to the next generation knowing how difficult this business is?
That you have to really fucking love it. Like, there are a lot of ways to work as hard as we work and make a lot more money. But if you love this, it's the greatest life in the world. And if you can go home every day and get to say what you and I say, which is when people ask us, what do you do for fun? And the answer is the same exact thing we do for work, then there's nothing better. But you have to be able to look and understand that. Because if you can't say that, do not even walk into this business because it is so difficult.
Yeah.
And we are very fortunate because whenever anyone asks me, what are your hobbies? What do you do for fun? The exact same thing I do for work. That's an amazing life.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I take a similar approach. I think I have kind of a blanket answer. I just say no immediately. I say, don't do it. So if I'm talking to a young chef who's like thinking about doing this and like, what do you think? Should I do this? I say no. And then I wait. I say, don't do it. And that always generates a response from them. And I think the response is the telling part of this, right? So like if you're telling 16, 17-year-old Mario is asking someone that, should I do this? And they say no, well then I'm gonna be kind of almost energized to be like, I'm gonna prove this person wrong. Like, you know, I wanna see the reaction, because if they kind of fight back, like why do you say that? It's like, because if you are even questioning whether you should do this right now, then that doubt, that little bit of doubt will grow to eventually consume you. And that doubt will be your demise. The only way to be successful at this right now is to be 100% all in on it. Don't have any doubt. Let the naivety of not knowing push you forward, which it did for us. So I tell them no, and I wait for them to fight me. And if they fight me, then you have a chance. That's the fight that you're going to need.
You're going to need to fight.
Yeah.
It's an all-in business.
Yeah.
You're going all in on every hand. Every decision we make, we go all in. That's the business. That's why we love it.
It's not often we get to sit down and kind of tell these stories and recant these memories. You know, we're always so focused on what the next thing is that, you know, it's always unorthodox for you and I to look backwards. But it's really nice to have that moment.
It is. It's fun. It's been fun sitting here and having our PTI moment that we talk about all the time. You know, this could be the beginning of our part in the interruption food career that we've talked about for over a decade. And but it has been fantastic, and I'm hungry, so
let's go to lunch. Let's look for our next topic.
Exactly. Next topic.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Culture Lounge. If you want to dive deeper into the world of cuisine and hospitality, Assouline has many books to guide your way, like Carbone, the Missoni Family Cookbook, and The Art of Manufacture from Alain Ducasse. I'll leave you with a fun bit of trivia I learned from our Carbone book. Did you know that rainbow cookies were first introduced by Italian-American bakeries in the late 19th century? Made with an almond-based sponge cake, raspberry jam, and chocolate coating, these nostalgic cookies are the only consistent menu item Major Food Group has had since the start of the company. To learn more about the intersection of culture and luxury, head to assouline.com. À bientôt!